Hey there, and welcome to episode 3 of the One Man's Journey podcast. Today, I've got somebody that is way more experienced than me on podcasts and way more farther down the line, and we'll be able to jump in and provide a lot of insight. This is a guy I've been following for a while, and he is fantastic. So if you haven't followed him, I strongly encourage you to do so. His name is Tony Salazar, and you can find him at Tony Salazar on pretty much all of the platforms. So I'll pass it over to Tony, and Tony, let's hear your story.
Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for having me, man. Nice to meet everybody here. Tony Salazar on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, any of those platforms. The story, I'm not sure what the short or the long version is. How far do you want me to go back on my story?
Honestly, man, wherever you feel is would provide some value for the audience. I know that, like I said, I've been following you for a while, and I've watched what you've put out there and how you promote yourself and how you show up on the daily, and it's fantastic. So, that's the reason that you're here. So, tell whatever story you feel is good, and if it runs a little long, we'll bring you back and tell the other part. So I'm all right
Got
with
it.
that too.
All right. Well, I think was the most important pivotal part of my story, which was, um, I was, my father was a physician and my dad died when I was 15 years old. And it was an interesting position for me because I was raised by a very alpha driven, assertive, intelligent dad that died when I was 15. So I had like a father figure for sure. And then at 15, no longer was here. So it forced me to like quickly grow up. And I was like quickly the man of the house. My mother still ran the family business, but it put me in a position. I was an only child that I was like the man of the house by like 15, 16, all through high school. So I was like given a ton of freedom and I was very explorative. So I was already a very grown up person by the time I graduated high school, put it that way. Right after high school, I fell in love with a sport called Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So I ended up finding jujitsu, which is the biggest catalyst of my life. Like so much of my life still revolves around the lessons I've learned on those mats and the value I've taken from those mats. So if you really don't know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, you probably have heard of it by now if you watch anything with Joe Rogan or UFC, but it's a martial art, and I argue that it's the best martial art in the world, but it's one that it's based on grappling, based on controlling an opponent, and based on live sparring every training session. So essentially, every time you're training, you are physically fighting with someone, not just drilling moves. And because of the nature of that, it forces you to be very confronted, especially in the early time of training, with the reality that someone can just physically control you. So you can walk into those mats like everyone does it, and you just get absolutely manhandled, suffocated, held down, choked, armbarred, humiliated, and in every sense of the word, it strips you down to your basic one frame of ego. You have nothing to be proud of on those mats. And it's very rare that people actually decide to stick with it, from the people that entered the doors to who actually stays after 1 year of that sport. It's something like less than 18% of people, because it's something a lot of people just can't tolerate, getting their ego smashed. Me, at the time of my life when I got into it, right around 18, it was everything. It consumed my mind. I was addicted to it. So I started competing in jiu-jitsu as a hobby at first, and I went to a professional level. My entire 20s was dedicated to that. And um, I learned a lot about myself and what I was. So I got my black belt in 2016 after a long time of career competing, multiple world championships, traveled around, had multiple sponsors. One of them was called a company called On It. And it got me into video, which is the business I'm in now. So my sponsors required me to create content to provide to them to maintain the sponsorships. And so I didn't have any knowledge about video. So I picked up a GoPro, and then that wasn't good enough. So I picked up like my first like big camera, like a $800 Canon camera, which is a big deal for me at the time, and started recording myself training and making YouTube videos and just doing what they were asking me to do. And shortly after, I was like, man, I have a knack for this, and I really enjoy the visual creation processes. So um, it gave me two things. It gave me a way to enter the advertising business. I learned how to leverage brand relationships and work with them on like the fitness model side. But it also got me seeing the dollar signs in the advertising business and seeing the fun of it. So you fast forward till now, I run a 7-figure media agency. We're in St. Pete, Florida. We have 16 people working in the business. We've done everything from we've gone on private jets, filmed yachts, tons of fitness commercials, tons of plastic surgeon, med spas, a lot of real estate, rented live tigers for shoots. I mean, we've done it all at this point now. And if you look at our like portfolio, sometimes I go back and I scroll and I'm just kind of like, wow, like we've really done it all in this business. So that's the short version of it.
Yeah, I mean that's a great short version. That's a lot of a lot of long time frame, and like the journey is amazing, right? And that's what the whole thing is about. You mentioned BJJ. I've done it. I did a 3-month trial of it, and
Nice,
I would have
nice.
loved to continue that. Like that was something that was such a difference maker, even into that short time frame of
Yeah,
basically exactly what you said, right? Like you walk in and you are humbled from day one. Like you
yeah,
think you can walk in and look at people that are smaller than you, and they are wrapping themselves around you and in ways that you didn't even
mhm,
know were possible. And it is literally, it's just you walk in and you walk out a different person, even just from day one. And
yeah,
the functionality of that was so great, just to feel that in the body,
yeah, 100%.
right? Like you can't get that from just lifting weights. You can't get that from running. It's
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. So that's
it's just
another
such a
topic right
different
there.
feeling.
But I agree. There's something that we say on the mats. I'm on my 18th year of nonstop jiu-jitsu. I still train 3 nights a week here in St. Pete. And it's something, and I trained in Lakeland primarily. So I'm 3 years into St. Petersburg, but I found some amazing gyms out here. I visited all of them. Being a black belt, that's probably one of the coolest parts is I put my time on the mat and I'm very well known within the area. So it's like, as long as you come in humble and respectful, like every coach at every gym is just happy to have you in. Hey, you're a great guest black belt. You can roll with their students. They'll have you assist teaching class. So I've been able to like just visit so many of the local gyms here instead of having to just commit to one, which is really what's required as a student. You need to commit to one gym under one coach. But at the position I'm in, I've been able to kind of just like travel around with like a mat passport. And I love that part of it too. So I'll hit sparring at different gyms on the weekends at an open mats. And it's always cool too. One of the funny things is like when we do no gi, which is I do both, and no one knows the level that you're at, you might look like just some normal guy. They don't have any context for you. So you roll with somebody in no gi and they just like blitz you and come at you really hard for 30 seconds. And then within that 30 seconds, they realize, what is this person? Like, why do they feel like this? So it's like, yeah, I've been training for 18 years. But to the strength thing you said, I talk about this all the time. There's a very big difference. And I'm a big fitness advocate. I love weightlifting. But there's a very big difference in the strength that you can move metal and lead and machines, and then the strength that you could squeeze somebody with. And so there's something most people haven't felt. So like someone could have a very strong squat or bench press or shoulder press or row, but there's a very different level that when you've trained it, the static hold strength of jiu-jitsu for so long. So, I've grabbed the hold of a lot of guys that are bigger and stronger than me. And when I've actually got a back clench or a tight waist grip on them and put some pressure, there's always this astonishing moment. They have to say something about it. Why are you so fucking strong? And it's like, it's a different than pushing something. I've held on to people for years. So like the idea that someone's going to squirm, just break loose of a grip when you have it on them is like, they'll feel that quickly. It's not going to happen. And it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's like, I heard Jocko Willink say it best, and I like to quote him a lot. He says on a podcast, actually, that, Jocko Willink is a famous Navy SEAL team commander, very respected, especially in the realm of combat and understanding all forms of combat. And he said that his kid asked him, Dad, are there such thing as superpowers? And he's like, I thought for a minute. And he's like, yes, it's jujitsu. He's like, jujitsu is the only thing on this planet I've ever seen that can give you superpowers, where you are actually no longer an equal to a normal human being. And I agree with it. It's like, it's something that's carried me a long way in the business world with my confidence, with how I present to people. And really, like, something I talk about a lot, the benefit of it is that there's a lot of scenarios in the world with people that cause men to feel sized up. Men are always sizing each other up. It's in our nature. Even if some deny it, they're just denying it because they maybe haven't acknowledged it to themselves, but we do it. We notice a guy's legs around us. We notice the width of his shoulders. We notice the width of his neck, his forearms. We notice, man, and then we start to perceive their intentions. And if there's somebody that looks physically intimidating and they're assertive and they're not very likable, we now feel this sense of threat inside of us, and we feel this need to almost like bow up and give them a cold shoulder. This could be in a network setting, business setting, whatever. Well, when you've been through enough time on the mat and you've you rolled thousands of times with thousands of people, and you really know what you're capable of, it takes away that concern of other people. So I find that I can just present a lot calmer and not have those moments. Or I've been around other people and they're seeing, this guy, like they get triggered by the behavior of others more so, where I'm like, I think they're triggered because they find that person to be a threat. But imagine a world where you didn't see other people as a threat at all. You felt so secure. You're like, it'd be really hard for them to physically hurt me. And so based on that, I have no problem going over and just getting to know them without those layers in between. And it's something that's like hard to quantify what I'm saying until you experience it. But it's nice. And I get complimented a lot. Like, man, you got such a calm, easy, confident demeanor. A way that I could put this, a perfect example would be, do you know how it feels when you're at a setting and someone's a close talker? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people are made to feel uncomfortable with that. So imagine if you're in a network setting and there's a confident man and he's taller than you and he comes over and he's very close. He stands very close in your space and he's talking to you as a close talker. I notice people they'll shrink away from that because they feel this closeness barrier has been invaded. And so like you don't feel that anymore. You have no problem with the closeness, no problem with someone grabbing your shoulder and squeezing yours. Like, yeah, like it's just normal physical translation. So I'm grateful for that part of my life, and it helped me a ton. The jiu-jitsu part has been something that I see so many lessons that come up in my life that I equate back to those lessons in the mats for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's such a cool thing to see something that you started just, I don't want to say naively, but naively, right? You didn't expect, you didn't see all of that coming.
No.
And I talk about this a lot, and I think about this a lot, and I end up with a lot of TikTok videos scrolling through because of it. But just the aspect of like where you start is not where you're going to finish. And
Yeah.
so the fact that like it where you said on your journey, like from starting out jujitsu to seven-figure media business, like connect those two anywhere else and at the beginning of your process, and you wouldn't, right? And so that's what's cool, is taking those steps in the directions and having the confidence built from things that don't even really associate to them. Like it's such a crazy journey that way. And I think that a lot of
Mhm.
people try to set themselves in a stone, or set themselves like, well, what do you want to do with your life? Whatever comes up. That's how I'm thinking, right? Like whatever the next step is, that's what I'm going to do. and
Yeah.
and you've got to have the goals, but you can't set yourself down a train track, because that train will derail at some point, and you got
Yeah,
to have somewhere
that's
else to
well
go.
said. An analogy I think I can tie in, then you'll notice with me, Ryan, I equate everything in life to jiu-jitsu. So like my partner's always telling me that. She's like, "Man, everything you find the jiu-jitsu analogy." I'm like, "It's just the lens I view the world through." But the thing that you learn on the mat that I think is the most effective as a man, like it does, if you get to the point of jiu-jitsu black belt, it's incredibly rare that you get there. 2% of people that train jiu-jitsu make it to that point. And it's based on level of application, not level of knowledge. So it doesn't matter if you know the moves, it's what can you do to a live resisting opponent. So it's thousands of hours, no less than 10 years to get to that point. It took me 12. And there's so much you have to go through to get there. But the lesson that I think that is the biggest you learn along the way is when you first come in, like you said, and you're getting very humbled, and you have those mat enforcers that you feel like there's nothing you can do against this person. No matter what you do, they're just going to keep beating you. All those challenges that seemed insurmountable, you slowly chip away and you realize they are surmountable. And then that version of you that couldn't beat that person, you realize, if I just develop my body, develop my knowledge, develop my smoothness, my flexibility, my cardio, my breathing, I'm no longer what I was now. I'm another level above that. And so you there's this thing that's been instilled in me, and with all my staff, I can definitely see a difference, and I try to mentor them the best I can. But most of the time, people still have limited beliefs and what they think they are personally capable of. And I do feel I had a cheat sheet with that, where I'm like, because of what I was able to accomplish in jiu-jitsu and some of the victories, some of the wins, some of the comeback from behind wins at world championships, I just feel right now personally, I'm like, there's nothing that it's too great for me to do. I could be wrong with that, but if I believe it, I'll still operate with that sense of conviction at it. So when I see like a client, like for instance, I just signed a new business that I'm purchasing, and I set a goal yesterday that I want to have this business inside the new Tropicana field. And that's a huge goal for me, but I absolutely know it's possible to accomplish that. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'll meet the right guy at the right time. You tell yourself it's possible. So I think like so much in life when I talk to you and with my podcast, the people that I speak to, probably the biggest thing people need to get is, like you said, you have no idea how life's going to pan out for you. And the version that I always like to end my podcast with is I say, hey, listen, just imagine if high school you saw you right now, got a glimpse of your life, like a download of your life, from everything to the woman that you're with, to the bank account, to the life you're living, to the physical fitness, to the way you dress, the friends you have, what you drive. Would he or she be proud of you or not? And mine wouldn't even believe it. Like mine wouldn't believe this life was real. So like the self-belief, the confidence, it grows with repetition like anything else. And then you start to really go, you hear something, you go, yeah, hell yeah, I can do that. Hell yeah, of course I can. So you don't know how the journey plays out. And I would have never imagined that it would have led me to this position that I'm in now.
I can pick up as well, that we talk about being able to to do whatever you set your mind to or put a goal to and know that it's possible and know that you're going to meet the right people. But on the flip side of that, I can sense that you also have a strong ability to say no to the things that you know don't align. And that is another thing that a lot of people don't recognize and
Yeah.
don't see in themselves. And they don't, they try to take on everything and they try to say yes to everything. But saying no to some things can absolutely set you on a different path or the right path or the right journey.
Yeah, so if you follow my content, which I think you do, I'm a big advocate about this. I'm a big advocate. So this is something that I'm huge on, and like let's update a little bit more of my journey to get to wrap this point. So um middle of COVID, I married, I have a 5-year-old daughter. I was married, and me and my ex-wife got divorced middle of COVID, and we decided to leave our city we're in of Lakeland, Florida, and relocate and start over life separately. So I moved to St. Pete, she moved to Tampa. We shared our daughter 50-50. And through that time of my life, it was challenging because when you separate from a marriage and from a partner, I went through probably one of the hardest things men go through, which is divorce. And now I have a lot of sympathy for men going through it because I realize how it really can affect men. And I'm lucky that I had the rest of the grit that I came with, because I made it through without getting into too long of the depression period. A lot of men go down a deep depression hole. And what you do to fight depression is you seek dopamine, and you look for things that make you feel good. So that could be dating lots of women, doing drugs, going out, staying busy, always being with the cool things. So I moved here. I was able to find in a very high level friend group, the socialites of St. Pete, where there's yacht parties and mansion parties and endless rooftop parties and events and party buses going to this event. I just fell into that life. And about a year went by where it was the perfect distraction I needed to keep me from feeling the pain of the divorce. But at the same time, I just like woke up all at once, and I just looked around and I was like, what is this? Like, this is not what real life is, right? This is just pleasure seeking. So yeah, the season of my life I've been in since that point, which has been 2 years now, I'm very, very aware of how important no is. So, I mean, yeah, I don't party much. We just got back from a trip to Vegas, and it was fun. It was for my mentor's birthday, and the amount of partying that they were doing, me and my girlfriend just couldn't hang with it. We're just like, we don't do that. We don't drink much. I'm an early to bed person. I have no problem saying no. And it got to the point now where with all my guy friends, I've just let them know, hey, like, you guys know me, you know my life. I live a dad life. I live a very focused, stoic life. Like, you know what to not invite me to anymore. And that takes a lot to actually say that. Like, hey, I'm telling you now, stop inviting me. Some people get the FOMO too much where they still want to get the invites and they want to decide in the moment. I don't want to even get the invites. I don't even want to know what's happening. I'm like, no, don't invite me. I'm not going to be going out. I'm not going to be going out, with a bunch of single girls everywhere running around and they're looking, opportunities. It's not where I'm at. So saying no is huge. And just really assessing, you have to just assess, like, what is it you want in your life? So like once you get clear on your goals and you go, okay, I know what I want. So for me, I know the amount of money I want to make. I know the impact I want to make. I know the amount of money for a big new motivator for me is how much I want the people that work in my business to make. I'm making great money right now, but I want the people that work within my organization to hit their 6-figure years. And so I'm focused on those things. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, what are the things I need to do to make that happen? I need to stay in peak shape so I can present very well, look tip top in a suit or any clothes I wear. So people immediately see competence when they meet me in person. And I sell visuals. So I need to make sure my hair is always done. I look good. Number 2, I need to constantly study. Number 3, I need to be at the right networking events. I need to set a hard time that I'm going to leave, meaning networking events from 7 to 9. People go out from 9 to 11 for drinks. You already told yourself you're leaving at 9. You leave at fucking 9. Right? That's like, these are the things that I have set. And this discipline keeps you moving, keeps you moving. And then if you can roll with that momentum, things start to really fall into place quickly. And then one of the coolest parts of it, Ryan, is that you'll see others how distracted they've gotten. So let's say like you're here and someone else is here and you operate like the stoic vibe and they operate like more pleasure seeker, saying yes to everything, doing whatever's fun in the moment. 6 months later, you'll meet them and you're like, you're still there? Like, you don't want to make them feel bad for it, but it does make you feel good to know, wow, they're still dealing with those type of clients. They're still trying to figure that one thing out. Why? Because they were hungover all weekend while I was working and studying all weekend. So I think that's a huge thing. It's not for everyone. That type of locked in life isn't for everyone, and burnout's real. People can hit it. But yeah, learning to say no to the fun stuff, like the temporary short time stuff, is a huge superpower that you'll hear the hyper successful talk about.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things for me as far as taking my power back was in 2021 when I did decide to quit drinking and make that decision and make it as a hard stop. Like there was
Yeah.
just that was it. And
Yeah.
so after that, like you recognize, and really I hadn't aligned myself with a bunch of people that did it really crazy anyway. So, you know, the old adage of like, you'll find out who your real friends are. Like, I never really lost friends because when I was here, it wasn't really that. It was just, you know, like I would have a couple extra at the end of the night that would turn into the long day the next day. And then you get
Yeah.
older and then it's the long day 2 days later, and you're, you know, before you know it, you drink twice and you're missing half your week. And it was just like the amount of time that I regained from not having to go to the liquor store and buy, not having to bring it home, not having to put it in the fridge, not having to take it out, not having to drink it, not having to plan my day the next day for half of the day because I knew I'd feel like crap until 11:30. Like the
Yeah.
amount of
Good point.
just sheer time that it opens up for you by just saying no to one thing. And it's been in such an enlightening thing. It's been like I've been able to just say no to more things and like feel the reward of that, right? Like not
Well,
doing the
yeah, it's
things
that
that don't
positive
align.
feedback loop. You say, "Oh, wow, I said no to this thing and it led to this good thing. What else are no's?" And the no's are huge. Even to what you said, like I always make this analogy because people do seem to get it like this. It's like, hey, imagine there's two versions of you, like two exact versions of you. And then the list can go on, but we're gonna do a short list here. So two clones of me. One clone, though, he doesn't lift weights and he eats based on his taste buds, and he doesn't trim his beard, and he doesn't get frequent haircuts, and he doesn't use facial moisturizer, and he gets clothes off the rack, doesn't care how they fit, and he drinks 4 or 5 nights a week, and he stays up late watching Netflix, and he sleeps in late every day. You combine all those things, and then the other version of me does all those things. We're the exact same version of person. The DNA is the same. We're two different humans now after a year of that. And there's no way, there's not one human endeavor that he'll be able to beat me in. Whether it's a physical combat, it's a sales off, it's a girl we're both chasing, I'll beat him in any human endeavor simply because I'm operating at a higher level on all those things. So personal presentation, my mind, my sharpness, my focus, all of those things, the money that's on my account because of the focus. So I always tell people, you can just create that Bruce Wayne version of yourself anytime you want. Like everyone has their Bruce Wayne version of them living inside them. And you look, it's just true on the other side discipline and stoicism. It's just like, look at that. Look at the life Bruce Wayne lived. And I actually just recently watched the whole Batman series again with my girlfriend. I'd never seen them. And I'm like, I've always been obsessed with Bruce Wayne, right? That's kind of like what I've wanted to always be, is like that badass, rich, handsome ninja, like I was like, that's a good goal to strive for, whether you make it or not. But that's a good model to follow with a deep sense of integrity and duty, and you can create that in yourself. And if you look around, especially in our city, St. Petersburg, like you're saying, there's a lot of pleasure seeking men. So I actually use that to my advantage because you say, hey, like, how easy is it for me to just energetically separate from a lot of these people? I walk into the room. I walk into the room at Canopy and I can feel the difference. I can feel people notice that I'm there, not because they even knew me prior, even though I do a lot of advertising. That's not my whole thing. They just feel something like, okay, like I'm hoping what they feel is like, yo, a real one's here now, because there's something different about you by the eye contact you can hold and the way you stand and the slowness to the breathing. And these things just come from you just like knowing that you've done the things and you're in the presence. That's what I think. It's like when you're not just constantly scattering for the next thing, you're waking up late, you're scrambling to this thing, you're running to this thing, you're texting, you're kind of just feel behind, life can
And the
life can get messy.
physiological aspect of you walking into the room, it just stuck with me there. I just seen this video, and of course, everything happens like this, right? You see a video, and then it gets confirmed within within whether a conversation or something happening in your life. But the Joe Dispenza talks about it, and he says, when you take that power, you're able to project that energy outwards of 9 meters from your
Oh yeah.
personal
Yeah. Joe
body. That
Dispenza is the
energy,
man.
the amount of meditation that some of those things take from like the way he explores things it blows my mind. Like it just,
Yeah. He's awesome.
I just sent that to my buddy. I sent a TikTok. I'm like, it was like, a 2-minute TikTok. I'm like, can you imagine the amount of internal searching and meditation that just this 1 2-minute clip took? And he does that
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, I've done a
And
lot of his meditations. I've done some of his online programs. He's awesome. And I agree. Like what the people do feel energy and people ignore these things, but when 100%, and I'm only speaking to this thing, I'm not speaking this thing to be boastful. I'm speaking because, and my partner can confirm this, like the amount of people that tell me things like, dude, you look like a fighter, bro. Like what do? You look like you do something. You look like they come up to me and they'll make a comment on just the presence. Just something, man. Yeah, yeah. You like, or they'll make eye contact more easily. And it's like, you feel that. And it's like, man, I've had friends comment on it. Man, everywhere you go, someone's talking to you, someone's hyping you up, someone's walking over and telling you something. I like this, I like that. And it's like, yeah, I think people are very hyper attuned to sense energies, but like it's almost like this. Like when I was single, and I have a lot of friends who are still single in their 30s in St. Pete, and I was trying to explain this analogy, and this is based on the energy. And Joe Dispenza's teachings would confirm this. It's that. Are you single as well, Ryan?
No, I'm married.
Okay, you're married. So you're a single guy and you're seeking a partner, seeking a woman, and you're in, for a lack of a better way to say it, you're in your fuckboy season, which a lot of my friends are. So they are talking to 3 to 4 or 5 girls at once, constantly on dating apps, seeking and searching, constantly meeting up, having sex with or dating women throughout the week. So they're giving limited, like, fractions of their focus to these women at once, and they're constantly entertaining conversations with other women. The good women, the wife women, the high level women, they can sense that on that man. The minute they talk to him, they could be attracted to him on the dating app and they could go on one date, but they'll find that woman won't be drawn to them. That woman won't come to them. So they can say, oh man, I'm just dating all these girls, but I'm not finding the wife. You're not finding the one. And it's like, clearly your thermostat is set to fuckboy. It's not set to husband. It's not. And they know that. Women can sense that immediately. They might try to waste their time and make you a good man. But realistically, what happens is the minute you go through a little bit of celibacy, you go through a little bit of pleasure, stopping, and you start to operate in that Bruce Wayne mode that I talk about all the time. It won't be a month or two for the energy shifts. You're at the grocery store, and all of a sudden you both just look up at the same time, make eye contact, and you're drawn to a person. They're drawn to you, and you don't know why it is, and the conversation just flows, and it's easy. And then before you know it, they're single, they're looking, but you're like, it's the energies that brought you together because they feel that when you're in the room, versus the same way a woman can see a man that they can find very physically attractive and say, he's very good looking, but he just looks gross. He looks dirty. He looks sleazy. They feel that on them. And it's not just between men and women in a sexual setting. It's between men that do business together, men to men that want to make friends with each other. This is like this with everything. Our energies tell everyone what they need to know about us.
And it's actually, I mean, obviously like we said, we've never met in person, but we've been kind of engaging on social and I've, followed you on social, and dude, it works through that too. Like just the difference in, the attitude, the stature, the posture, like all of that shows through and blatantly in your content. Like it's there, right? And so all of that, that energy changes your physical appearance, like you said, as well. As it's just such a different feeling, and that's something that I've approached as well and felt as well. And not necessarily in the sexual aspect, but just like what you said, walking into a room when it's different. Like when you
Yeah.
walk into a room and I'm good with the water, and people look at you like you're at a bar. Like, what
Yeah.
do you, like
Yeah.
just that conversation. And like
Yeah.
the waitress comes back and she goes, "Are you sure you're good with just the water?" Like they always have that second question, and you're just like, "Yep, I'm good." And they're just like,
Yeah.
"Okay," and they take the energy and they walk away. And
Yeah.
so,
Or they
and I
think you
can
have like a
sense it.
drinking problem and you had a reason you had to stop. Like, oh, you must have had a problem.
Yeah, right.
Just
Yeah, that's
make my
it's
life better, you know?
yeah, it's the only thing that you have to explain why you don't do it, not why you do it, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
to that note as well, one thing that I want anyone that sees this to understand is that the best way to say no is to say no completely unapologetically. And so you'll learn to stop explaining yourself why it's no. There's no explanation needed. It's just a no. And that's how I am now. Nope. It's usually like I'll do it. Like if you say no, or if you say nope, there's a different tonality there. And so I prefer the nope a lot because the nope doesn't invoke such a confrontation, but it's kind of clear like, nope, I know what I'm saying. I know I'm saying no, right? So they're not going to ask you what's up. No, good. But when people try to hyper explain and explain why it's a no and tell you the long story, it screams, I need validation. I need you to approve of my decision and I need you to support my decision. What if they don't? So by not being concerned how they're going to perceive your no, you immediately have taken more power and more status back too, you know? So there's a
and
lot
yeah,
to
and
that. There's a
it's
lot of
so uncomfortable
development that
the
goes
first
into
couple
that.
times.
Just the confidence, right? Like when people will DM and we have the course you see 7-day social branding is an online course that I teach and teach people how to get on video and speak with confidence, speak with presence, and get their true personality on video. So a lot of it is personality coaching to learn to get that true personality out onto the camera. And then the other half of it is the actual logistics of how to shoot videos with the cell phone, how to light yourself, mic yourself, and then what to do with that content to grow a personal brand. But one of the things we talk about all the time is they'll say something like, I just want to come off like you on camera. And I'm really honest. I'm like, I wish it were that easy, but this is a combination, like I said, 18 years of jiu-jitsu and a lot of personal development that gets to the point. But you do get to the point where you're like, I just don't give a shit. When you don't give a shit because you know so much of who you are, it comes off more confident in person, you know?
Yeah, and that first time or the first few times that you just, like you said, just say no without the explanation is some of the most uncomfortable times you'll ever have in your life, but
Yeah,
bite
at
your
first.
damn tongue.
And sit in that energy. That energy is like weightlifting for you. So like the still, dead, silent energy, it's beautiful because you can learn to tolerate that through repetition. So like if you took someone in the gym and ask them to squat 225 and they don't really squat much, and maybe they can press the weight, they get 3 hard reps in, they're really sore the next day. And if you ask someone to sit in a sales call and you say the price of your service, and then you sit there dead silent and not say anything else and let you all just soak in that moment, it's hard for people at first. After a while, the more you learn to tolerate the silence and the needing to say nothing, the more power you take back, because then they're squirming in it, and it removes their confidence. And there's a lot of other cues like that. Like another really good cue is if someone's ever in a social setting and they try to make like a joke on you, or like, I don't know if you've seen this before. I make content like this, try to joke on you. You just act like you couldn't hear them. And so you ask them to repeat it. And by the very nature, jokes require timing. So now the timing beat is off. So now it's not going to hit the same way. So, well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. What was it again? They'll say it again. And you're smiling like, oh, I don't get it, man. Silence. Let the silence sit. You've taken power from them in that way if they try to put it on you. And there's little things, but this silence is huge. I don't get it, man. You just kind of wait. Like now they have to explain why you don't get it, what they meant, what they were trying to say, why they were trying to say it. And there's so many questions to be answered there that you just go, oh, never mind, my bad. And they'll shrink. Oh, fuck. And then that's the way you can be like, I'm not the one, boy. I'm not the one to try that with, you know? But learning to sit in the silence comes with that confidence in yourself. Like, I don't need to say, people that have to fill the room with talking with when they just don't know what to say. Elevator,
Just
you know.
talking or music or TV or
Mhm.
just something has to be there.
Yeah.
It's super evident and super like you can see it, and it's just like from sun up to sundown. It's like, don't put me in a car without it. Don't put me in a room without it. Don't turn the
Yeah.
TV on and
I
don't have.
enjoy my silence quite a bit.
Oh, it's like
Yeah.
it's super important for me. And there'll be days where I'll just go even into the gym, not play music in my headphones, but have like the noise canceling on and just be there.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
you don't have to have
It
like drilling words into your brain, and you can just like especially when you're repping out physical, because you're activating your entire body, right? Including your mental
Yeah, of
part of it.
course.
And so you're able to just like really dive into those thoughts and really like flesh out stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to flesh out because you're so concerned about, I got 3 screens in front of me, right? So like you're concerned about what's going on in this screen, this screen, this screen, plus the cell phone. Like you've got it all in front of you at all the time, and you're able to just
Yeah.
like get away from that. And it's just you in the mirror and the weights.
What gym do you go to here in St. Pete?
I just go to Planet Fitness because we travel quite a bit and they're
Okay.
available everywhere. So it's just like
Nice.
an easy access for me.
Nice.
And I'm not a bodybuilder, so I don't need, a lot of the stuff that comes with it. But,
Right.
that's just where it's been. And it's like, put me with a bar and I'll figure out a way to make it work. A couple
Love
months
that.
ago, I did 30 days of Thor. And I don't know if you've seen that Chris Hemsworth workout he does with the barbell. It's like eight or nine different exercises, and he does 10 reps and 10 sets. It's just like a massive, like test your limit kind of thing. And I did it 30 days straight. So it was just me kind of like proving to myself, one, that I could continually do something, the same thing every single day,
Yeah, it's
and like
hard.
not get like, even when I'm bored, show up and do it.
Sure.
And like
That's hard.
when you're sick of it, you show up and do it. When you're sore, you show up and do it. And it's like, it was just that mental test for it. And then it definitely created some imbalances, obviously, when you've got the same thing every day. But like, I used to hate lunges, and then I did 30 days of them, and now I really hate lunges. So, just kind of proved that. But
What you just said was like one of the other great takeaways. I'm just tying it into the lessons that I learned in jiu-jitsu, right? Which is that type of like, you still got to do it mentality. So like once you're competing on a competition team, you're now responsible for the training of your teammates. So you have your own training to do, but you are a training partner for others who want to win some titles and win some matches and go accomplish their name. And we need bodies in the training room to give each other hard rounds, and you need to be at your tip top shape, hydrated and well rested to give your training partner a hard round. If you come in hungover a day and your training partner is whooping your hungover ass, he goes to world competition and meets a guy who's like in shape, he hasn't felt that all training camp, and he's going to be like, whoa, that guy's level was higher. So we all had this ethical duty to each other to stay in tip top shape and stay conditioned, stay hydrated, and just stay ready to rock. And there's many days, bro, where it will be a Sunday morning, that alarm goes off, and you did not want to go in on Sunday to do training. But you had the group chat that was like, we all needed to be there. And if you weren't there, your teammates, your comrades were like, yo, you let me down. Where were you? They just roast you endlessly. So it developed over years and years and years, this mentality of like, dude, whatever happened, I would go into the gym every day, 7 days a week, the jiu-jitsu school. And even on days I didn't even train because I was injured, I would go in there and sit on the mat and watch everyone else train, to be in the energy, to mentally train, and to see, so you're just got the habit of every day I was showing up, every day you're going there. That's phenomenal in business, because when I talk to people, they just decide to take a day off because they're not feeling good that day, or they're like, I'm taking this. Don't get it wrong. We take time, we take trips, we do our thing, but the fitness is going to get done. The work's going to get done. You don't like avoid the hard stuff, So those little challenges, like you said, are phenomenal for you, because like I make fun of 75 hard, but truly I think it's awesome. I only make fun of it because I make fun of people. I say everyone who does 75 hard quits after 75 days and then they get fat again. So I was like, what's the point? I've never met anybody who did it and then like that sparked their fitness journey and they stay peak. I'm like, how about you try 365 hard and just like stay in shape, but truly, I think those things are amazing because it does test you a lot, and it will put you in a place where you believe in yourself more after. That's the beauty of test, right? You enter as version 1, you exit as version 2, and now you believe, well, shit, if I can do that, what else can I do? And then when you do 50 and 60 of those little challenges, you start to go, I don't think I have any idea what I'm capable of, and that puts you in a place where you just seek the challenges constantly.
Yeah, that not knowing what you're capable of is obviously the plague, right? Like that's what creates average, is because you look at something and you see, okay, I don't know the steps to get there, but I know I can get there.
Yeah.
Other people look at it and go, I don't know how to get there, so I'm not going to even take the step. And
Yeah,
so,
dude, that's most people. And I actually don't mind it. I don't mind that at all. I make a lot of content on this, and I'm known to be a little controversial. I make content purposefully to trigger people, just to get them to pay attention, emotionally react. So I have no sympathy for lazy men. So like the areas that I have no sympathy for men are men with guts. I always say that if you've got a belly, if you've got a gut, do not expect other men to respect you. They might treat you with respect. That's different. But to expect me to actually respect you as a man when you have a pot belly due to simply indulgence and lack of movement, you've lost my respect there. Doesn't mean I don't think you're a shitty person, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to treat you like my equal. Right. And so you start to realize, like, people don't, to your point, people don't believe in themselves because of the story of their life, the stories they've told themselves, what they've been subjected to. But I could feel bad for them if this was like 1970s and I just got a bad dice roll. But right now, with the access to information, with everyone having a smartphone, information being the most readily available, easy, anybody with the spark of motivation and desire for a more abundant life can find it. So I truly don't feel bad for anybody anymore, because people that are on welfare have cell phones, they have internet. So if you want the answers, they're out there. Most of the biggest life-changing things in my life have come from that little 100-year-old book over there called Think and Grow Rich. 100-year-olds written. You can find that book anywhere. And you can read that book over and over and over and over again, and just constantly reiterates points in your mind of, it is nothing to do with what's happening around you. It's everything to do with how you're perceiving what's happening around you. And it's like, so when I meet people and they're down on themselves, I can't catch a break. I'm like, keep that shit away from me. Like, I'm not going to be the shoulder to cry on. And if you want to climb up the mountain with me, let's fucking go, bro. But if you're going to, bump your knee and want me to help you limp you up, that's not me. Like, that's not the dude I am. So I always say this too. Like, when people are like, oh, like if it's about fitness, business, motivation, whatever, they're like, oh, this guy we should help him. Oh man, look at the people around us. Look at the pool. All these dudes are out of shape. And I go, that's a good thing. I was like, trust me, when you walk up to a pool and there's 50 guys there and 46 of them are completely out of shape, I don't see that as a problem at all. I see that as better, right? Because now my perceived value is so much higher. Now I
yeah, it instantly separates you.
stand out way more, right? And then if you combine that with some substance and personality, a beautiful woman, and then people immediately, they'll take you as, this dude's clearly deserves some respect. He's got some things in place, and that gets them to look at you different. I've noticed that big. I made a piece of content, which this is actually something kind of drifting, but I want to stay in the subject. Something that I noticed when I got into business that I didn't want to believe was true for so long, and I fought this for so long, like we do, right? We're stubborn and we fight things, and then we have to eventually accept them. Was I did not, I still don't like designer brands and like wearing suits and Gucci shoes and like the handbags and the Rolexes and all the stuff that the status symbols say about people that earn income. I thought was very silly. I was like, what a stupid investment to spend $17,000 on a watch or spend $2,000 in your wife's purse or all these things like that. What? There's so much better things to spend money on. I'm happy in wearing shirts from the mall, which is, I still wear shirts. I'm like built basics. This is nothing crazy. But when I went out and got last year, I got 5 really nice tailor fitted suits, all different colors. I started dressing better, started getting some nice style looking designer watches. They weren't even brand name watches, all less than $200, but they looked really nice. I started presenting like that when I would go out in the world, network settings, business dinners, meetups. Instantaneously, it changed the level of the connections I was making. It reflected on my income so quickly, Ryan. And it got me into rooms and tables with people that I was like, wow, like if I did not wear a suit here today, these dudes would not have invited me to sit with them. And I was like, it's like lunchroom all over again. But
Yeah.
there is such a raw truth to that it's like, if you can present in a way, and then you add fitness on top of that, and you add a beautiful woman on top of that, the way that other men perceive you is so dramatically different. And you will 100% catch the attention of others, and you'll get brought up. Just like this trip I was in Vegas with one of my mentors, worth $70 million. He spent like $240,000 on a trip to Vegas for 4 of us, and we all covered our own flights and hotels. The money he spent was just like dinners and limos and security and VIP bottle service. And like, it was an incredible experience. There's 3 billionaires there at this experience. And I was just kind of looking around. I was like, I would not have been invited to this if I wore a tank top every day and tennis
Right.
shoes, you know? And it's like, there's a part to that where I want all young men to grasp this. I always try to tell them, it's like, you really do have to look the part to be seen, unless you're like the Mark Zuckerberg, who's just so good at one thing that you can say, fuck you, look how good I am. And then you can wear the sandals to the boardroom and get the $20 million check. But that's very few. Most people, you need to play the game a little bit, you know?
Yeah, and then playing the game will make you perceive that you are better at that one thing than what you actually are, and
100%.
that's because it's not, like, and I mean, there's hundreds of songs out there, right? Like, hundreds of music artists that say it. Like, it's not how good you are, it's how good you look, right? And that one sticks in my brain from an NF song who's been kind of, if I'm listening to music, that's
I love
kind of
enough.
where I'm at.
I
So
love enough so much.
man, we went to Orlando and it was fantastic in
That's one of my
concert.
top workout. When I play music in the gym, his albums are like one of my favorite things to lift weights to. It just gets me
Yeah,
hyped. So I love his
he's, like,
music.
super hard, but he's also, like, singing about the real stuff too.
Yeah,
He's not
yeah, yeah,
singing about the truck that he lost or whatever, the country music stuff. He's singing about real stuff. So,
yeah,
but, just sayings like that stick. And, really what I would wanna say is, if you're grasping on one thing, or if you're worried about where you're going, just stick to one thing and grasp on one thing and get really fucking good at that one thing.
yeah,
And just let that one thing carry you into a different position, a different platform, a different move, a different room, and then watch how people react because you're in that room and you're really fucking good at that one thing.
yeah,
And I'm watching you, just briefly on your story, you got really fucking good at jujitsu. And now
mm,
that you walk into a room and people go, man, that guy's really good. You got really good at the branding. You got really good at the production. You got really good at the videos. Like, all of those were the one thing at that time.
yeah,
And then you were able to
exactly.
expand. And
Yeah,
so
so I have a tattoo in the back of my left calf, and it's Morotu Musashi. He's a famous samurai. He wrote the Book of 5 Rings. It's actually a tattoo that all my friends say is their favorite because it's this big, badass black silhouette samurai standing with his head down and the blood dripping sword. And it's like, it's my tribute to the martial arts. And there's a symbol behind him. The symbol is called Shoshin. And the Shoshin symbol means it's like the beginner mindset. Like, you always look at things like, I have more to learn. I have more to learn. But Musashi was famous for one quote. It's actually something Joe Rogan has tattooed in his arm, is this quote. And this quote is so translatable. And this guy was a 16th century samurai and understood this back then. And the quote is that when you know the way broadly, you'll see it in all things. And so the translation is like, once you've mastered anything, one thing, you now have the blueprint and the path to mastery at the next thing. So if you become really good at jiu-jitsu, like for me, I felt like once I achieved my black belt, I knew that I'd separated myself from 98% of the people that do jiu-jitsu in the world. I knew that I was part of an elite level now. And besides the jiu-jitsu population, I knew like 99% of the people in the world I could physically put unconscious without them being able to stop. So it put me in this position where I was like, okay, like it was a humble knowing, but it was a knowing of I am not a normal dude anymore. I felt it the minute that belt was tied around my waist. I was like, I did it. I fucking did it. Instantly, you go next goal, but then you come to that next goal with this, like, bro, like David Goggins said, it says this best. I'm going to quote Goggins here because I've read all his books. I just saw him in Tampa 2 months ago too. It's like you hear the positive affirmations and you hear all that shit, like speak positive. And I do that. I write the affirmations, but he's like, you really need to learn how to access both positive and negative. So when you're in the morning mirror and you're waking up, or you're standing in the mirror and you're at home, that is the time to tell yourself all the things you really need to hear. Bro, you're a lazy piece of shit for not going for that run today. Dude, you think you're hard? There's dudes out there that did this, they did this, they're making this. You remind yourself of what you're not all the time. You need to be honest and keep yourself humble. And then when in the middle of the hard thing, you're on the run, I road bike a lot, you're on the long road bike, you're in the hard gym session, you're dealing with some business bullshit, and you're starting to mentally unravel, that's when you remind yourself of all the amazing things you've already done. And you go, dude, I'm the motherfucker who got my jiu-jitsu black belt. These guys are not. I'm the guy who figured out how to do this. I'm the guy who got that girl. You tell
Pulling out
yourself
those
that in the moment,
cookies.
and you're just like, dude, you're not stopping me with this. Like, it's gonna take a lot more than me. So like, I've had road biking days where I literally felt like I wasn't gonna be able to ride my bike back home on 40, 50-mile rides. And I was like, my legs don't want to move anymore. And I'm like 8 miles left. And I'm like, there's no fucking way these 8 miles are going to break me. That's the shit I have to say. Cause then I start to believe that. Right. So like stories you tell yourself, like each little thing you go through strengthens you for the next one is really like
Yeah.
the biggest thing it does. And
Pulling out
you're,
the cookies out of the cookie jar, right? Like,
you're
I think that's
totally
what he
right.
says in Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
And adding one more to that too, you can add a step in between, right? Because the preparation piece for the hard part is probably one of the most important pieces of that. So in the morning, you tell yourself what you can accomplish. Right before you go in to do the hard thing, you prepare your brain and you tell yourself, are you ready? Because your brain's going to start lying to you right now. As soon as that hard piece hits, and as soon as you hit that first wall of like not being able to press that rep, your brain starts twisting things and starts lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
And going into that, and then you evolve into that mentality of like, I've done this before, I can do it again, and being able to build off of that
Yes.
too. Like that whole pathway
That's it.
is such a powerful thing.
It's that sentence you just said that really sums up everything we just talked about. It's I've done this before in one version or another, and I know I can do it again. So for me, like I take it all from we called it the dark place in jiu-jitsu, where you'd have matches where you're like the last 2 matches were like I was blacked out. I was so hyperventilated, exhausted, pins and needles through my body, but I just kept fighting. And sometimes you had no energy to even consider winning the match. Your mentality was, I'm not going to let him tap me in this match. I'm just not going to get tapped. I'm not going to get finished. I'm just going to survive. And then you realize like, yo, you actually do have so many deeper levels where you can go before you let someone just kill you, right? Before you just give up and stop resisting and let them just choke you, right? And so after that, you wake up the next day and you're like, all right, next time you're in that hard position, you're like, dude, it takes a lot to break me. Like, I'm not just going to get stressed and unravel. So you start to believe that in yourself. I've done it before. I can do it again. That's the quote Musashi said. When you know the way broadly, you see it in all things. And yeah, so when that's it, that's the best advice I give everyone. You find one path to mastery at one thing, whether that's drawing, rapping like NF did, whatever that is, you find something and you have it be almost like your religion that you do. And I actually think it's better personally when that thing that you do isn't what you do for money. Because then you always have it. So like it'll always be in your life. You'll never get burnt out from it because you don't start to resent it when the money's not coming in. So like for me, it's been martial arts. And I train boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. I'm always doing something martial arts. It's my religion in a way. It's like my self-development religion. But I never try to do that as a career. I never tried to like teach it and make money with that and open up a gym because I was like, no, like a lot of these guys, they end up not training because they're just teaching all day. So I'm so selfish about my training. My training is my time. Yeah, I'm even selfish on the mat. This is going to sound bad, Ryan, but like when I go to gyms and I'm rolling with someone and if I'm just like so far above their level where they know that they're not going to win the match, they'll just stop and try to ask questions the whole time. And that does irritate me. And I'm like, I'll say, hey, brother, I'm here to train. So give me the best you got for this next 4.5 minutes. Like, I'm not about to stop and give you a mini private lesson when I only have time for 3 rolls today and I got to get back to work. So like, this is my training time. just enjoy this for what it is. It's an ass whooping that you're going to get on your journey up, and that, trust me, those all build you up,
You know, go ahead, go hurry up and set up your phone and record it, and you can watch it, and then that'll be
Yeah,
enough.
it's like you gotta get your timing because they'll ask. I'm like, man, I don't have time to break all this down for you, right? Like,
Right. Yeah,
um,
and you know, you get tasked with something, you do the thing, and then you move on, and then, you know, the
yeah,
multitasking part of it is its own thing. But man, I think we could go on forever. I seriously appreciate like your time today, and rattling through this stuff with me. And I've had some realizations, and I hope you have had too. And I hope we bring some realizations to the people that are watching and listening. But I'd love to have you back, and I think we could fill another hour right back up with
sure, man,
a bunch of
anytime,
stuff, bouncing it off. So I appreciate you, and
absolutely,
we will see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
awesome. All right, thank you so much, Ryan.